Imagine living your life peacefully, watching the sun rise over the horizon, birds tweeting in the trees, children laughing and playing nearby. Life is good. You feel safe in your home, loved ones beside you, and then suddenly everything changes. Tanks roll down your street, missiles roar overhead, buildings shake with explosions. Your world turned upside down in an instant. What just happened? It might seem like something from a movie, but for millions it's their reality. Reality shaped by one of the most controversial wars of our time, the Iraq War. A war that started with a lie and ended in chaos. So what really went down in Iraq? Let's take a journey back in time and uncover the truth. 2. Background. Let's start at the beginning. Where is Iraq and why should you care? Imagine a land shaped like a piece of Arabic mezzi, hummus, baba ganoush, falafel, all mixed together. That's Iraq, nestled between Iran, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. For thousands of years, it's been a melting pot of cultures and religions. Think of it as the social hub of the Middle East, where Sunni and Shia Muslims, Kurds, and Christians have lived side by side. But under the iron fist of Saddam Hussein, who ruled with a mix of brute force and cunning, Iraqis were more like ingredients waiting to boil over. Now let's rewind to 1990, when Saddam decided to spice things up by invading tiny Kuwait, hoping to absorb it into Iraq. But he got more heat than he bargained for. The international community, led by the U.S., wasn't having it. They slapped harsh economic sanctions on Iraq, which stayed in place until 2003. So imagine being stuck in a pressure cooker with a faulty thermostat. That's how Iraqis felt. And then came the plot twist, 9/11. Suddenly, the U.S. was on the hunt for new enemies, and Iraq was next on the suspect list. The stage was set for a showdown. But what was the big idea? Why did the U.S. invade this tinderbox of a country? To answer that, we need to look at the bizarre justification given by none other than President George W. Bush himself. He claimed that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, or WMDs, those fancy biological or chemical weapons that can decimate a population. But here's the kicker. Most intelligence reports said Iraq didn't have any. Did the Bush administration ignore them? You bet. They were more interested in adding another notch to Uncle Sam's gun belt. 3. The justification. The lead up to the war was a tangled web of half-truths and outright lies. President George W. Bush painted a scary picture of a dangerous Iraq. He told the world that Saddam Hussein's regime was a ticking time bomb, ready to unleash deadly weapons of mass destruction. But was there any truth to these claims? Well, not really. In the end, no WMDs were ever found. But that didn't stop Bush from selling this tall tale to the American people. He spoke of a supposed link between Saddam and the 9/11 attacks, saying that Iraqis helped Al-Qaeda plan and carry out the attacks. However, investigations later revealed that there was no solid evidence to support this claim. Bush also warned that Saddam was developing deadly viruses and germs that could kill lots of people. But again, this turned out to be another red herring. Despite these flimsy justifications, Bush was determined to go to war. On March 2003, U.S. troops crossed into Iraq, and the adventure began. 4. Invasion and occupation. The invasion of Iraq was a swift affair. Within days, Baghdad, the capital city, fell into American hands. It was a stunning display of military might. But many people believed that this victory was short-lived because the real war had just begun. The U.S. quickly dismantled Saddam Hussein's government and his army, thinking they would be welcomed as heroes. But they soon realized that this wasn't the case. Many Iraqis saw the Americans as invaders. This led to a surge in resistance against the U.S. forces. People threw stones, set vehicles on fire, and even attacked military checkpoints. The U.S. responded with heavy-handed tactics, which only fueled the fire further. Soon, the streets of Baghdad turned into battlegrounds. Homes and buildings were damaged, shops were looted, and hospitals were overwhelmed. The once proud capital was in chaos. But it wasn't just the Iraqis who suffered. The U.S. soldiers also endured terrifying moments. Every day brought new challenges and dangers. They faced attacks from both sides and had to navigate through a maze of suspicion and hostility. It was a test of their courage, resilience, and humanity. 5. Chaos and division. As the dust settled on the initial invasion, a bigger crisis loomed. What next? The U.S. had removed Saddam Hussein from power, but they hadn't prepared a roadmap for what comes next. They disbanded Iraq's army, purged members of Saddam's Ba'ath Party from government positions, and failed to address the underlying social tensions. It was like removing the lid from a shaken bottle of soda. The result? An explosion of violence and chaos. Iraq was thrown into a spiral of lawlessness. Rival factions clashed, entire neighborhoods were wiped out, and innocent lives were cut short. Sectarian conflict erupted with Sunni and Shia Muslims turning against each other. Even the Kurds weren't spared. Amidst this mayhem, resistance groups known as militias sprang up to protect their communities. These groups often acted outside the law, resorting to extreme measures to achieve their goals. The militias became a symbol of Iraq's descent into lawlessness, making it harder for the U.S. to restore order and stability. 6. Rise of extremism. From the ashes of war rose extremism and terrorism. Groups like Al-Qaeda capitalized on the chaos and recruited disaffected Iraqis promising revenge and justice. The insurgency reached its peak with the emergence of ISIS, a radical Sunni Islamist group that aimed to establish a state in Iraq. They used brutal tactics, executing people, burning villages, and even crucifying individuals. It was a dark chapter in Iraq's history. The presence of ISIS further destabilized the country. It became a magnet for foreign fighters who flocked to Iraq to join the conflict. The country became a battleground for global jihad, with Iraqis caught in the crossfire. The situation was dire, and many questioned whether Iraq would ever return to normalcy. 7. The cost. The Iraq War left a heavy toll on all sides. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis lost their lives, homes and businesses were destroyed, and the country's infrastructure was in ruins. The war also had a significant impact on the U.S. and its allies. Thousands of soldiers were injured or killed, and the financial cost was staggering, reaching trillions of dollars. The war also took a heavy toll on the mental health of those involved. Many veterans struggled to cope with the trauma of combat, dealing with issues such as post-traumatic stress disorder, physical injuries, and moral injuries. Moreover, the division and mistrust sown by the war continue to resonate today. Iraq remains a fractured nation, grappling with the legacy of violence and instability caused by the conflict. In conclusion, the Iraq War was more than just a military operation. It was a turning point in recent history. It showed how easily trust can be broken and how difficult it is to rebuild. It also highlighted the complexities of modern warfare and the lasting impact it has on individuals, societies, and the world. Today, Iraq continues to deal with the aftermath of the war, trying to piece together a future from the ruins of the past. The question is, can they move forward, or will they be forever haunted by the ghosts of war? And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this gripping tale. We hope you enjoyed this journey through the turbulent times in Iraq's history. If you want more stories like this, stay tuned for more updates. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.